Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Lives Falcons vs. Bucs Week 8 post-game show. I'm your host, Kevin Knight, at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by my co-host, he is Alan Strk, at Alan Strk. Alan, another sweaty finish, but yet again, another last-second victory by the Falcons, who managed to keep the Bucs out of the end zone despite a missed field goal from Younghoe Koo that made this a possible upset spot here. But didn't happen. Falcons secure the win and secure front-runner status in the NFC South. So they did win the game they had to win. But how are you doing on this fine Sunday?
You just knew the Falcons Bucs. It's gonna be funky. I know Evans and Godwin are out, but the Falcons have their players missing too. Troy Anderson's looking like a very crucial player in this defense, which we'll get into more later. And I think Justin Simmons was missed. But overall, Kirk Cousins. This is why they went all in.
Yep.
You want to be the team to win the NFC South. You want to get that quarterback, and look what Cousins does. He has two of his best games so far as a Falcon against the team that is the primary competition.
Yeah.
Phenomenal job there. Look, we can make jokes about it, but Kyle Pitts, this is his best game since probably his rookie year. I'm sure you guys will have plenty of jokes about a second touchdown, but look, those are plays you want Kyle Pitts making. Darnell Mooney teams to make those class plays. Offensive line, especially without Lindstrom for the second half, I thought put on pretty much a clean performance. This offense, once again, like they set a new standard, especially now that we realize that Kirk Cousins can move. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this game, folks. Kirk Cousins could leave the pocket. It was unreal.
Possible. We've captured it on camera. It's theoretically possible. It's now officially possible. We saw him run forward in a straight line. So yeah, great stuff there.
And he could do a quarterback sneak. So you know what? The Falcons offense doesn't. The limitations are pretty much gone. Look, we're not expecting Kirk Cousins to run 4 times a game, but it's the fact that he's able to move instills a lot of confidence that, okay, it's not the play's not hopeless when it breaks down. And, of course, look, defense we're talking about, but today, star power wins out, and Jesse Bates is the best safety in the league. And AJ Terrell, 2 interceptions against NFC South opponents. And this interception I thought was really well done. We'll get to the breakdown of that. But overall, hey, look, defense, they got their stars, and they just got to make a few plays a game with the way the offense is playing, and they did enough there. But look, we'll absolutely get into defense because there's plenty to unpack there. But Kev, we got to celebrate this offense because this is what we've been waiting for since the peak Matt Ryan days.
Yeah, no, we're going to start the show off by giving the offense their flowers and talking through that stuff. Obviously, not a flawless performance. We're not expecting flawless from the offense. You know, the couple critical penalties, obviously you have the miss from Younghoe Koo. That's really not on the offense. That was a kick that he has to make. But, you know, I liked when they chose to be aggressive. I liked the play calling. You know, people were getting upset about that safety sequence, which, yes, that's okay to be upset about that, but they were like, why are we handing the ball off? Like, that's a logical time to run those plays. Like, that you just can't have Christian Izien unblocked, like, when you're inside your end zone. Like, you can't have a player coming unblocked into your backfield in that scenario. That should never happen. You know, Algier was, like, I think he was literally shocked that there was a Buck player like already in his face before he even got the handoff. Like, that's inexcusable play. That's not like play calling related problems. Like, you would want to hand the ball off there. It's just
come on.
Yeah, but other than that one drive, which thankfully that wasn't the crushing blow that it could have been. I think if the Falcons don't get the safety there and even just punt that away, this game is probably decided well before it was decided in this game. But definitely another sweaty one, but the offense did exactly what we need them to do because this defense is god awful. They're just so bad right now. Outside of those aforementioned splash plays, like Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell come away with 2 of the better picks you'll see all season, I'm sure, that were absolutely critical because the Bucs were marching on both of those drives. And that's literally the only reason the Falcons were able to stay in this game is because they took the ball away, because they weren't stopping them. That's for damn sure. But we're gonna heap praise first before we get into the problems. But real quick, before we heap anything, we're gonna get to this sponsorship from BetOnline, folks. Basketball fans, it's that time of year again. The NBA is back. The Hawks, I believe, are 2-0. I'm sure Adnan's toasting some champagne somewhere, except it's non-alcoholic champagne because he doesn't drink. But from opening tip-off,
where's the ginger ale?
Yeah, the ginger ale, whatever it is. From opening tip-off to the buzzer beaters, BetOnline's got you covered with the best odds, biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all your favorite teams. And this season, every game matters because BetOnline's got every stat, matchup breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the games as well. And it's not just the NBA. BetOnline's got odds on everything from football to the MLB playoffs, now the World Series, of course, NHL, and political props for the next week if you want to get in on that stuff. So what are you waiting for, folks? Head to that website today. It's betonline.ag to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right. Well, Alan, the offense... You love how they came out firing. They took advantage of the early turnover to cash in with 7. They went up and down the first half. It felt like they almost couldn't miss. Outside of a couple of times where it was penalties that really kept this offense from just going completely wild in this one. Penalties and some little mistakes, but outside of that, man, in the first half they absolutely dominated the Bucs defense. I mean, it was. I thought the Falcons defense was getting dominated, but then you look at what was happening to the Bucs defense and you're like, well, maybe it's not that bad actually, considering what's happening to the Buccaneers right now.
Yeah, because there was a huge time discrepancy in time of possession. I think the Bucs had the ball the first 13 minutes, the first 13 out of 16 minutes. The Falcons barely had the ball. Then you watch it's the second quarter is going. It's all right, Kirk's in total rhythm right now. And it just seemed like every throw and offensive line game, excellent protection. And once you give a quarterback that established time to go through his progressions, he's going to make the right read, and he was firing. And I think it speaks volumes how good this offensive performance was without major contributions from Drake London. Drake London did his thing as a blocker, but he didn't really make any notable big play catches. Just a few things in the slot. This game was Kyle Pitts, a little bit of Ray McLeod, and Darnell Mooney mostly. And of course, Bijan Robinson, who we've been saying for weeks needs to be more involved in the passing game. And it wasn't anything fancy, but just him just being a factor, because anytime you get him the ball, he's likely going to make someone miss. He's going to get an extra 3-4 yards. And we saw that even when they were backed up, because I think Ryan Newell was probably the one offensive lineman that had a pretty underwhelming performance, some really ill-advised penalties. But then they would just get the ball to Bijan and get back in a better second or third down. And that kind of helped them put together those long drives. But man, Cousins was just on point with everything, man. And I know we were all pretty relatively happy about the signing, but this was one of those games where they desperately needed Kirk to play at elite level, and he was flawless.
Yeah. I mean, great game from Kirk. This is what he was here for, to be able to dissect, a defense, especially when they're down some players, especially in the secondary. You need your quarterback to be able to take advantage of that, and he absolutely did that this week. The Bucs weren't able to get much pressure even after Chris Lindstrom left the game, which was nice. It feels like Kyle Hinton's just much more comfortable at right guard. I know that's his natural position, so hopefully Lindstrom's okay. He did have his helmet back on, but the Falcons didn't really press to get him back in the game, it seems like. So hopefully Lindstrom's injury is minor, and they were just precautionarily holding him out. But you love what you saw from Kirk Cousins. Missed Darnell Mooney on a would-be touchdown early in the game, comes right back to him later. And delivers an absolute laser to get that touchdown. And, this offense was absolutely feasting on big plays today. Darnell Mooney's averaging almost 20 yards a catch. Kyle Pitts averaging 22 yards a catch. The only person that really didn't get going per se was Drake London, who still caught 4 passes, but they were mostly, of the shorter variety. The Bucs' one good corner is Zion McCollum right now, and he was matched up with Drake for most of the game and, did a good job there from what I could tell. But, yeah, I mean, the passing game, I really don't have too many, other than the screen game, which they need to just rip that out of the playbook. They don't run them well. They call them at the wrong time. They called 2 screens against press man coverage. Yeah. I love that the podcast pointed that out. It's what are you doing?
Yeah. By the way, weird. Next week, I don't know if you heard, they were promoting the Falcons-Cowboys games, which is the big 1:00 game, and Greg Olsen will be on the call game. Greg Olsen's fantastic.
Yeah, I love Greg Olsen.
Today was one of those games, maybe because it was National Tight Ends Day, he was extra fired up, but Greg Olsen, today is one of those games oh, it is so refreshing to hear Greg Olsen on the call. But yeah, I was a little surprised Cousins didn't check out of that, because we know he has the ability to, make those pre-snap adjustments, and for a reason he didn't do it there. But the idea of having a downfield passing, because the Falcons haven't had that for the past couple of seasons, and the fact that they had 2 explosive touchdowns where both were such really well executed. And I want to go to the Kyle Pitts, that first touchdown, because he draws a holding penalty in the process, and just to see him winning against press coverage like that and really showing off his size, I think that's just a huge confidence booster because people are wondering, can he play in the slot, outside, inline tight end? He's had to become more accustomed to playing as an inline tight end. And if we're going to get explosive plays as an inline tight end like that, this offense is cooking at a whole nother level.
Yeah. You really love to see, like, that was one of the things we really asked for, I think, after the slow start that Kyle Pitts had. They were just kind of using him on those traditional wide tight end routes. And it's like, Kyle Pitts can run those routes, but you're not really going to see his plus traits on those routes. Like, maybe if you're throwing screens way out in front of him, he's got the catch radius or like slants and things of that nature. Like, you can see some of that. But, like, really where you've seen it, like, he's such a natural deep ball tracker. He adjusts super well to the ball. He's got that long speed where, like, it takes him a couple steps to get going, but you'll see it. Like, he'll blow by linebackers and safeties. Like, he's and you could just throw it up to him because he's so big. Like, you don't really even have to put that ball in a dangerous spot to be able to get it to him. And I think we've seen Cousins even, like, overthrow that. Sometimes maybe getting a little too comfortable with his catch radius, but you love to see it. Like, he has become one of their best deep options. He's working the middle of the field. He's running those intermediate as much as bad I have to say about Jimmy Lake after this week, like, the reverse is true for Zach Robinson. Basically, he's been iterating and making changes and trying to improve this offense every single week, and it's paying dividends. Like, Kyle Pitts is a key part now. They've started to run the ball inside a lot more effectively. They're not as reliant on the outside zone anymore, and that's opened up the outside zone to be more effective as a result. Like, I don't really have any complaints, like, other than the screens. Like, but look, we're never going to get everything we want. Okay, we're never going to.
He needs to watch Liam Cohen. Watch Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen does a fantastic job with screens. Like, these games have been classics. Just watch the film there. But yeah, his adjustments, like, I love what they're doing. Greg Olson calls them, I guess, momentum blocks, but where they motion Charlie Warner and get him into the B gap and use him as a lead blocker, he gets such momentum and he just barges into a second level defensive player. And you saw it, like, it leads like Bijan. I think he picked up 11-yard gain off that. And even the touchdown to Mooney, they ran like a dagger on the right side with Pitts and London, and it forced Winfield to leave his spot as a deep line safety on the other side, and it opens up a one-on-one opportunity with Mooney, and I forgot who the cornerback was, but it just, you see much more creativity when it comes to route concepts, but then the running game, even though, yes, Mooney and McLeod had pretty rough holding penalties, but they're utilizing receivers in great ways to make those key blocks, especially London. I thought London was fantastic as a blocker today. So it just, Zach Robinson, just give him opportunity, man. This guy's learned from Sean McVay. I know it was a tough opening process for him the first few weeks, but over time he's gone to a real rhythm, man. And if you could figure out the screens, then Falcons got something really special. Like, right now they're building something. Now just a matter of, can they do it for all four quarters? Because I feel like even though they were fantastic, the second half did dip a little bit. And given the lack of margin for error with this defense, there's gonna be games where the Falcons pretty much have to put up mid to high 30 points.
Yeah, no, that's where they are right now. Like, this defense can't be trusted to, like, stop anyone. I mean, that everyone's going to see this game plan. Like, there's certain areas of the field, certain routes that they just can't cover because Jimmy Lake will run the same defense and the same call every time. Like, and they're just wide open. And obviously, Rich going from Justin Simmons to Richie Grant makes that a lot easier. Richie Grant just does not have the range to play deep. It's clear. He just can't, and he doesn't have the instincts either. Like, maybe he has the range, but he doesn't have the instincts, so it doesn't matter. Like,
man, you are itching to talk about this defense.
I'm itching.
We're trying to focus
itching.
on the offense, and you just want to go rant. Come on, a little bit more off the offense.
A little bit more. Okay.
Let
me breathe for a second.
As a yak player, man, Darnell Mooney, I think, is very underrated when it comes to yak.
I do love Darnell. Yeah, no, like, honestly, like, it's just like I have nothing bad to say about the offense, really. I mean, you love to see when depth offensive linemen have to take the field that they play well. Kyle Hinton obviously does that. You get a great day from Kyle Pitts. We've been talking about getting him more involved. They seem to have found a role for him. It seems like he was kind of benched after his second touchdown. He didn't really play. They didn't really target him. So
I think it was one drive.
It was one drive. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was just one drive. But then, but you saw, like, in the 2-minute drive, he made like a key third down conversion. So, I guess we might as well talk about that second touchdown. First off, when was the last time you seen Kyle Pitts like an open field make multiple defenders miss? I'm thinking it was that Buffalo game, the snowy game in 2021. It was like a 50-yard play. I forgot what design it was, but I just remember that was maybe the last time I've seen Kyle Pitts running wild in open field.
Yeah.
And it's really a cool touchdown. But good Lord, get in the end zone. Be smart. Come on.
We can't
What
do
was
that.
going through your head? Because I think both of us thought that was a fumble.
Oh my God. It was a fumble. Like if they had that sideline view, it would have been a fumble. So like, I mean, look, like you can't have that play in the NFL. Like you can't ever relax, especially when you're playing the exact same team in the exact same stadium where Desmond Ridder like blew the game basically on that exact same play, doing the exact same thing. Now, at least Kyle Pitts had the ball in his outside hand. That's probably the only reason that it wasn't like automatically, you know. So at least Kyle Pitts took the step of putting it in his outside hand. But that's literally it. Like you can't have that ever. Like that is, he's gonna get. I'm sure the coach is gonna chew his ass out for that, and I'm sure they did. And hopefully this is a learning experience that he will never ever do that again in his career, because he came this close. He came that close to blowing the game, probably. I mean,
yeah. I think they absolutely chewed him out, because I've never seen a touchdown that awesome be that disregarded. Like that was a fantastic play. To me, that's probably the best Pitts play Pitts has made since probably his rookie year. And I think they're running like 10 personnel, but he was the inside receiver, and he just, I don't know if it was running like a crosser or a dig, but just the way he split multiple defenders, I was like, oh my God, this is so refreshing to see. And like we said before, if out there you get this explosion version of Pitts, and if they're gonna figure out ways to utilize him in open field and just get him going like this, this offense could really become a top 5 unit, because we know what London and Mooney and Bijan and Algier and McLeod bring, and just what can they get on a week-to-week basis with Pitts. And he's blocking better too. Like the play action where Cousins missed Mooney, probably like his only inaccurate throw, Pitts was blocking, I think, Joe Tyrant, and he held his own. I was like, okay, this is what you need from him, like showing more urgency as a blocker. So improve him as a blocker, and if he's going to make these explosive plays in a receiving game, wow, this Falcons offense, we're already in for a treat. But I'm blessed just how excited this team is, because I think that's something that we got to be grateful for, because they've been talking about for years now. They just need a quarterback, and it looks like they got their quarterback.
Yeah, and I agree. Like they have the quarterback. The one big piece that they were missing, they got it. And look, you need to get this. You need to get that passing game going to have any success. We saw it. Arthur Smith proved it. Like this, there's no such thing as just a good run game with no quarterback. And it's because everything in the NFL, it's reliant on the other side of the ball. And I think the Falcons definitely have a potentially balanced attack. The run game is very inconsistent still. I think after the last few games, and this is not meant as slander, I think after the last few games, it's become pretty clear, like now that the blocking has kind of stabilized, that Bijan Robinson is the better runner. Like, I mean, I don't think that's controversial. I know there were some people like really pushing
conversation.
Like people were really pushing Algier, and it's like, well, just look at their yards before contact per rush. Like, and like, this is probably not going to hold up, like, and Algier is perfectly good. Like, I'm not trying to slander Algier, but I'm just saying, like, everyone that was like really pushing hard for that, I think it's become pretty clear. Like, Bijan has really settled in, especially on those inside runs. And you could tell he's just making 2 to 3 extra yards on most of these carries where there really wasn't much. And
Agreed.
Algier, as good as he is, and as good as he is in some situations, like, he's not able to give you those bang bang plays that Bijan does. And I think going forward, it's pretty clear that Bijan should be the bell cow. Algier should be able to get carries too, because he's good. He's a good pass blocker. He can catch out of the backfield. But yeah, I mean, I Bijan's really come on strong ever since it feels like maybe like week 5-ish. He's started to really kind of take over this backfield, and I think last week was kind of like the clearest picture, and this week too it was like, yeah, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy you drafted, and he's such a huge player in the passing game too. I mean, I feel like the like harder the catch, the better Bijan looks. Like, he's just like, oh yeah, like, oh, this is a hard catch. One hand, like, just, and then start juking like before he even catches it. But if it's like an easy catch,
that was
like,
one of the best garbage time plays you'll ever see last week. But look, we don't have to make comparisons, everyone, and appreciate both for who they are. I think Tyler Algier is great in that closer role, even though this is like the first time he didn't close the game. It just wasn't his game. But look, appreciate for both of who they are. But look, there's no denying, like, Bijan, he's on trajectory to be the best running back in the league. You watch him. There's no wasted movement. The way he uses hips, like just the way he runs the pace. he has such a great feel for the game. And like he's understanding blocks better as well. Like even on screens, like he followed Bergeron on what was like a 9-yard screen. And by the way, Bergeron's having a really good year. I think that's a big reason for success. Bergeron's taking that second-year leap that I think the team envisioned him to take. But yeah, just let's not compare the two. Appreciate for both who they are. This offense is booming. And I'm sure at this point, it's just you want to see Bijan get like that 40, 50-yard run, and he should have got it, but unfortunately, Ray got blown up by Jordan Wyatt.
Times.
Like he deserved, that's the thing. Like people are like, when's Bijan gonna get that run where you just see him like over 50 yards? And it's just that could have been it, even though it wasn't quite 50 yards. It was still a run where it was a significant portion of the field. He's gonna get it at some point, but it's just one moment here and there. But no, I think the Carolina game really set the tone in the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. No, it did for sure. And like, I think they've seen that they can lean on this run game if they need to, like, especially against teams that don't stop the run well. And that's great. That gives them a lot of flexibility. You don't have to put too much on Cousins as long as the defense doesn't, get you in a huge hole or something like that, which hopefully so far, other than the Seahawks games, they haven't really done that too often, but it's, you love to see it from Bijan. You love to see it from this O-line. I think, like you said, Matthew Bergeron, we were all like, he was, I think, my breakout player. Like, this is the guy I wanted to see. I really think second year, obviously changing from right to left side, also changing from tackle to guard. Like, it's tough for those guys to have strong rookie seasons, but that second year, you can usually see a big jump, and it didn't necessarily start out that way. It's not like he's been bad, but I think the last 3 games in particular, like last week before he got hurt, he was dominating up front. And if the Falcons, hopefully Lindstrom's back, like they can get that, and if Dahlman gets back in here, man, like I feel like they can have just this dominant interior run blocking trio that can just grind games away, like if they need to against certain opponents. And I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully, I mean, Dahlman's eligible to return. We haven't heard anything, but as soon as he's ready, I believe the timeline was 6 to 8 weeks. So we're getting closer to that 6-week number. We'll see, if he's on the earlier end or the later end of that. But this offensive line, I think, is performing like we hoped they would at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think the Eagles game was a huge boost for the O-line because week 1 was a big humbling. I think the Steelers have the best defensive front in the league. Like we can look back at the week 1, just like they won against a premier unit. Like the Steelers go 7 deep, like they are stacked. But that week 2, they completely owned the line of scrimmage against Philly, and Bergeron and Matthews were a big reason for that. So I think they've pretty much grown since then. Other than maybe a few hiccups against the Saints, maybe, or not the Chiefs, excuse me. Besides that, this offensive line, we're finally seeing them play. We've been hoping, like, all right, the offense could play at top 10 level. The offensive line could finally beat that unit that PFF has been praising for like the last 3 years. We're finally seeing all that come to fruition, and it's a long time coming, and it's the biggest reason why this team is where they're at. They control their own destiny at this point, which leads us. Do you want to talk about the defense now, or we're going to take some listeners?
Let's take some questions. Let's take some questions. I'm going to put that off as long as I can, because I really don't like.
You're
I
itching.
know I'm itching because I'm just angry, man. But like, I want to, like, it's more fun to dwell on the fun stuff, honestly. Like, I know we're all frustrated about this defense play. We need to make sure we don't let that overshadow the offense, which, again, outside of a couple of mistakes, the safety drive was. You can't really have that. Like that was almost a disaster. But it was a
that Ryan Newsel. I hate that Ryan Newsel face mask. Oh man, unacceptable.
You can't have that, man. Absolutely
just
can't.
Yanked him.
Yeah. So we still got, but that's the thing. We got room to grow, right? Room to grow. This offense still hasn't really played like an all good game yet. Like they've had mistakes. They've that first Bucs game was pretty close, but
I'm about to say that first Bucs game. I'm thinking about that right now.
They did pretty much everything they could. But I think this offense is really close to getting, and especially I think once they get Dahlman back, I think we're going to see this offense take off. But let's get to these listener questions. Thanks you guys so much for donating. We got Rise Up RXNs. Welcome back with the $5. Thank you, man. Says, ugly win is still a win. Absolutely. Should have won by 2 scores. Also correct. D-line is awful. 3 for 3 so far. Richie Grant proving why he has to go. 4 for 4. Old man legs for the win. 5 for 5. Wow. Rise Up RXNs.
I don't know about ugly win, man. Can we call this an ugly win, though?
Yeah.
I mean, the offense was thrilling to me. I feel
yes,
like ugly win
it was. And
17-10 smugfest.
Yeah. It was an ugly win, not because of the score, but because of, they were this close to blowing that game. Like, they missed the field goal. They got the safety. Like,
enough,
That's why I call it ugly. Not because the offense as a whole was ugly. Like, the offense was actually fun to watch, but I would definitely call it an ugly win. But I can see where you're coming from with that. But thanks for the donation, man. Appreciate you. Alex Foster with the $5. Thank you. Says, we have so many weapons on offense and we're using them, ? Even with Drake being quiet today, everyone else looked great. Not used to this feeling. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point, Alan. Like, they're not reliant on just, like, I felt like back in the Arthur Smith days, it was like, well, either Drake London's going to have a good game or like nothing, because they didn't throw to Mac Hollins. They just refused to ever use him. They really didn't target Kyle Pitts, and they basically ran the ball. So it was sort of like, if Drake London doesn't go off, this passing game's not really doing a whole lot. So, and now it's like, you can kind of, like, if the team like if the opponent decides we're just going to bracket Drake London, then you can be like, okay, I'll just throw to Darnell Mooney. We'll just throw to Kyle Pitts. Don't matter.
Yeah, everyone's getting touches. It's no more we need to manufacture 6 targets to Jonnu Smith. It's everyone's going to eat, and we're going to do it in explosive, unique ways.
Yep. It's great stuff. Love to see it. We got Sour Pickle, great name, with the $5. Says, Pitts seemed to get benched after that unfortunate touchdown call. He's got to stop doing that careless stuff. Yeah, we did talk about this, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, the good thing here is that it didn't end up costing the team. So it's a learning experience that doesn't hurt you, but you learn nonetheless, right? You get shootout. He's never going to do that again. I'm just glad, unlike Desmond Ridder, it didn't end up costing this team a win, which is exactly what happened before. And, my tweets about that Desmond Ridder play definitely got me in trouble. So I'm also glad that we didn't have to repeat that scenario either. So, it's just really a win all around that we didn't have that touchdown called back, because that was a critical moment in the game too.
Let's focus on the fact that Kyle Pitts in a big game was one of the biggest reasons why they won. And he's now a legit feature part of this offense, and he's looking back like his true explosive self that could really take the top off the defense.
Yeah, and I think after this game, I mean, we'll see how it shakes out, but he was already in the top 3 in tight ends, 91 yards today. He might creep up even higher. So, he's definitely already having his second best season of his career, I think, just 8 games in. So,
nice 800-yard season covered.
Yeah. No, we're pushing for 1,000, brother. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it.
I like the optimism.
Yeah, we're doing it. They're going to have to, considering this defense, which we're going to talk about in a minute. I just always bring it back. Yeah.
I would say they still got 2 games against the Saints and Panthers. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could feast on there. But...
Oh, yeah. We got JM Huddle with the $5. Thanks, JM. Says the cardiac kids strike again. Kirk Cousins playing like Mike Vick today. Yeah, man. Kirko scrambles out there. Man, that was I was like, my jaw was on the floor when he took off. I was like, there's no way he's, oh, okay. Oh, he's going. Oh, he's going. And it's just like, everyone in the stadium was just shocked, that's why I was like, the first time he runs, like, no one's going to expect it. He's going to get a big gain. And then, like, that's probably the only time he's going to run all season. But,
I'm just thrilled Dave had the tweet ready, because Dave had the best Matt Ryan tweets. Mm-hmm. And I think it just shows the fact that Cousins is more confident in his body, because, we talked about this after the Chiefs game, where he had opportunity on 3rd and 3 to scramble, and he just stood there and basically got tackled. Like, he refused to move when he easily could have got 6 yards to convert. Now, what was it, 2nd, 13, and he knows it was crunch time, because I don't think they were in field goal range yet. And man, he just saw that lane, and what a moment.
Yeah. Just, you love to see it. And then they executed the scramble just to be like, okay, he can, or the sneak. We can QB sneak. So now but like, I feel like that's really important that they did that, because now teams have to respect the sneak, because they have done it. Like, I think before teams were like, they can't QB sneak it. That we don't have to worry about that. And they did, and it was actually a pretty good one, I thought. And obviously they probably benefited from the Bucs, like, just really not thinking that they were going to run a QB sneak, but we'll see.
They needed, because in those moments with Tampa Bay having Villa Vea and they were key on the run, like, the running game just wasn't quite hitting. So I'm glad they had that aggressiveness there.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And you can see, like, Vita Vea in there, man. It's never going to be easy to run against that Bucs front in short yardage with Vita Vea. That's just the way it is. So kudos to them that they didn't let Vita Vea take this game over. It definitely could have happened. Sour Pickle with another $2. What's up, man? Thanks again. He says, we need Troy Anderson back. Is he going to play soon? I think he was close to playing this week. I think they really want him 100% because they know how desperately they need him for this crazy-ass scheme to have any chance of working. So my guess is he plays next week, personally. But, we'll see. He was limited all week. So I think we'll be back. We'll be back. Oh yeah, Lav S. Can we talk about how dumb their fake punt was? Yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry. That was a terrible call. Kadarius Hodge, like the GOAT, honestly. He's like the like whatever the basketball award is, like 6-man award. That's Kadarius Hodge. Like he's just like the most valuable bench player. He does it all, man.
3 players the Bucs are absolutely sick of: Kirk Cousins, Jesse Bates, and Kadarius Hodge.
You'd never think it. You'd never think it. We got Mad Mac with the Danish $100 donation.
Oh,
Mad Mac,
go.
What's up? It says DKK.
Denmark.
I don't know what that currency is, but DKK 100. Thank you, Mad Mac. He says Falcons fan from Denmark here. Very rare that I can catch you guys live, so just want to show my gratitude to my absolute favorite input about the ups and downs on the Falcons. Thanks, guys. Thank you, man. Really appreciate you. Shout out to Denmark. Another place I'd absolutely love to go. Norwegian heritage. I believe I'm like over 75% Norwegian. Like 2 of my grandparents were Norwegian, so definitely want to get up to Denmark too. They're not the same country, for the record, people. They're kind of close. They're not that close, but definitely want to get up there. I want to do like the Sweden, Norway, Denmark trifecta.
Maybe Finland as well. I mean, Scandinavia. Who doesn't love Scandinavia?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing but positive people from.
Oh yeah. Very, very happy people up there. But we got Sour Pickle with the 199 again. Said Bijan should have been in on that final drive. I thought so too, to be honest. I would agree with that, but it's.
I think he was, no? Didn't he have one
the
third
last
down
play,
conversion?
The last play he
was. Yeah.
But for the most part, it was Algier. So I agree. I think Bijan needs to be getting those high leverage touches, with Algier being more the RB2. But like, there's no reason Algier can't have success on those runs either. It's just, I think Bijan gives you more chance for like a big play, especially when you're behind the sticks. Like, Bijan gives you a lot more chance. Like, even if it's like a dump off or something that you're trying to run, or if you're just hoping to get a miracle, like Bijan's much more likely to give you that miracle. Not that we haven't seen Algier do it, like that screen pass comes to mind where he took it like 18 yards on 3rd and 12 or whatever. But yeah, I agree. Like, Bijan's probably going to continue to get more of those high leverage touches going forward, would be my guess, now that he's really, I think, gotten comfortable in this new system. And then we got we got a couple more. So we'll go ahead and get through these, and I know we'll have more come in, so that way we'll do those towards the end of the show. But we got Mahmoud Faroud with the $5. What's up, man? Thanks for the donation. Said, we need to trade for a good pass rusher, preferably Myles Garrett. I'm tired of our D-line getting dominated with no pressure. Don't think it's going to be Myles Garrett, but Josh Uche, perhaps. If one Patriots pass rusher doesn't fix your defense, maybe a second one will. But yeah, they got to do something. They can't keep trotting that same stuff out there. Matt Judon, man, I am so sad. I'm just so sad. Like that, he had a couple of like decent rushes towards the end of the game, but man, like he just looks like he's stuck in mud half the time. Sad.
They got to put on a shirt, preferably Myles Garrett. That's gonna be one of the funniest I've heard. Yeah, I like a trade. Preferably Myles Garrett. It should be two.
I would accept somebody else, but preferably Myles Garrett, just for the record. Yeah,
maybe Max Crosby. But hey, one big credit to Judon for one play. I thought it was DPI, but it looked like him and Rachaad White were both hand fighting, so I guess it was good no call. But that third down, he got stuck on White on that wheel route, and then the play after was the botch fake punt.
Yeah.
So Judon, he made one play in coverage, and considering how much Rachaad White has terrorized secondaries over the past few years, it was a timely play. He did enough to disrupt the route. So look, we're inching for positives with defensive line, but players not named Grady Jarrett. Because by the way, I want to mention Grady Jarrett played well.
He did.
Grady Jarrett, he's the one guy out of this. Which
they just can't get two rushers. That's the thing. They just can't get
2019
two
right now.
Yeah, they just can't get two people to rush at the same time. Like, they'll get pressure like on a lot of plays, but it's just one guy getting pressure and then the quarterback steps up or just escapes the pocket. Like, to get sacked, you got to get two guys getting pressure to get the sacks. And honestly, even when they do that, they just don't finish. Like, they just have no finishers on this team. So, big problem, obviously. We're not quite, the defense talk is coming soon. Don't worry. Got Ian McCluskey with the $5 saying, Jesse Bates III is the best safety in the league, and AJ has really started to turn the corner this season as well. I definitely agree with Jesse Bates being up there in the conversation for the best in the league. I don't think AJ had played as bad as people thought up until this point, and I also don't think like this game was like significantly like better. Obviously, that pick was phenomenal, but like I think AJ's basically played the same all year. it's just like this scheme just limits his opportunities to do things. Like, I mean, we're about to go to the defense. I can feel it. It's bubbling up. It's bubbling up inside me. Like, I hate this scheme so much. I hate it so much, man. I can't stand watching AJ Terrell and Mike Hughes 10 yards off on like 1st and 10. And it's like, are we even going to like try? Are we even going to like give our corners a chance? Or are we just going to give them a free catch? And they just ran screens every time. Like, it's just constant screens. And the corners have to try to run 10 yards upfield. And it's like, oh, by that time, all the offensive linemen are in place. You're just giving up 15 yards on every screen. Like, and you just keep running the same coverage. Like, you just keep doing it over and over again, man. And this defense is played out. Like, the Bucs just showed teams that, like, if you throw it here, or you run this play, like, it's going to be open every time because this defense is going to leave it open. Like, that's just, it's this, like, you can't be stagnant in the NFL, and that's what's happened. Like, this defense, to its credit, like, I want to give Jimmy Lake credit. The first month of the season, they needed Jimmy Lake and this defense to hold the fort, and they did. Nothing has changed. Like, they're running the exact same defense that they were then, and teams have figured it out. Like, you can't stay stagnant in the NFL, and that's exactly what's happening here. It's just played out.
Yeah, and their pressures are so stagnant. Like, when they're running games or stunts, like, teams are telegraphing it right away. And some of that might be on personnel just not being good enough, but there's got to be more creative ways. Even the blitzes, like, there was one blitz where they had like D offered 10 yards away just coming down the B gap. I'm just like, God, like, the quarterbacks are getting the ball off so quick because your coverage is so soft. Why are you blitzing 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage when quarterbacks are able to find an open receiver within 2 seconds? Like, it's just little details like that. I think the linebacker play is borderline atrocious right now.
Yeah.
Nate Landman, he just can't move. Like, that swing pass touchdown to White was embarrassing. Caden Ellis is missing routine tackles. Look, I know, Bucky Irving, he might be special.
He's really good.
Bucky Irving. Dude, it's just, wow, he was breaking tackles on the right. But there was one where, like, Caden Ellis, you just have to make that stop where I think it went for, should have been like a 2-yard game, but then went for like a 10-yard game. So it's just the fact that they're not getting anything from the linebackers and the pass rush is total non-existent. Like, that front's bad, and then you're playing a bland coverage where you're pretty much relying on Baker Mayfield to force throws, which he will always do because he's Baker Mayfield, especially when they're playing from behind. So thankfully, I think if the Falcons could play with leads, which you can't always bank on every week because you're going to play better teams. But if you play against teams that are more desperate, maybe the coverages could work because they're going to force the ball down the field into these defenders. But it's just so pedestrian, man. Like, you saw, like, Cade Otton. Like, Cade Otton, if Gronk was in the Fox studio, I would really wonder if that was Gronk. Because Cade Otton has never been that type of player. He's been like a marginal, decent red zone threat. Dude, Cade Otton was just time and time again. Didn't matter who was covering him or who was not covering him. Like, he just had so much space to work with. And just like, you knew Cade Otton was the one player that Mayfield has a strong rapport with. Besides that, the rest of those receivers are relatively new. Cade Otton was always going to be the primary target. And you're allowing him to beat you relatively easily. It's just, it's unacceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. And, early in this game in particular, we saw that, that they were just intent on playing nickel. Like, the Bucs were running it every play and they just stayed in nickel, and they eventually went to base, but like, that didn't really help them either. Like, they just then, like, their linebacker play, you can't play this defense with the linebackers as bad as they are. And like, even at one point they kind of pulled Landman off the field and put Bertrand in. That didn't really help. But like, Landman just can't move right now. He's clearly not healthy. They need Troy Anderson so desperately. And like, hopefully he'll be back next week. But man, I don't understand. Like, it's one thing if you have like Fred Warner, as your linebacker, and it's like, I never want to take him off the field. Like, I'm never taking Fred Warner off the field. He's like one of our best players. He can cover, he can do all this stuff. And maybe that like is Troy Anderson eventually. Like maybe that's his ceiling, is he can be on that level. He's obviously not on Fred Warner's level right now.
That's a dream.
Yeah, that's a dream. But like, he's got that talent that he could like potentially, if he like hits his ceiling and all this stuff, maybe you're have him in that conversation. But like, he's not on the field, and we're still running multiple linebacker sets, like, in obvious passing downs, and the linebackers suck. Like, they're bad, man. They're bad in coverage. They don't tackle well. Like, why? I mean, maybe the backup safeties are worse. I mean, we saw Richie Grant. It's not like that was any good either. So it's like, I don't like. We just can't have those linebackers out there all the time. Like we're playing like those are our two best guys.
Ryan Nielsen did a fantastic job masking last year because you rarely saw the linebackers get exposed in coverage last year. Maybe large part of that was they're playing a lot more man. They were playing more cover 6 as well. And they were more willing to play those 3 safety looks with Bates, Grant, and DeMarco Helms. Now, maybe because they have a lack of safety depth, but even then, it's like, oh, could you use Kevin King more? But then again, I think Kevin King looks kind of vulnerable when he's in. I don't think he's adding much when he is playing in dime packages. Maybe Antonio Hamilton, see if he could possibly play as a third safety. I just think you got to play with more defensive backs than leaning on these 2 linebackers until Troy Anderson's healthy because they're just getting picked on left and right. And you just saw time and time again. And even like the running backs, like on checkdowns, like Rashad White would just get so much open space. And it was so understandable why the Bucs weren't really throwing to receivers because it's like we're getting chunk plays with our running backs and tight ends. Why are we going to bother throwing outside the numbers when we're just getting 8 to 10 yards a pop?
Yeah, exactly. And when they did decide to start throwing to receivers, the receivers were open. So it's like, this is probably
that Jalen. I want to know that Jalen McMillan play. Oh, that could have been a 60-yard touchdown.
Oh yeah, he was wide open. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, this defense was just making mistake after mistake. Guys were wide open, way too much space, no pressure. Like, and then
Richie Grant. Oh
man, like
Richie Grant.
Like, irrespective of the players, like how can you go to the podium at your press conference and say, like, I don't look at the stats. We're playing, like, we care about wins. And then trot this defense out there week after week. Like, maybe you should start looking at the stats, buddy. Like, because this shit is not going to work. Like, this is not going to fly. Like, does he think, like, his defense is the reason this team is winning games? Like, the fact that Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell are getting, like, incredible plays to keep this team in game. Like, because it ain't this game. Like, it's those guys making incredible plays. Like, you're doing your team no favors with this, and then to have the arrogance to come out on the podium and act like you're calling a good defense. Like, wake up, man! Like, wake up! Like, we're all pulling for you. Like, we're not criticizing you because we dislike you. We're criticizing you because if we can see this, I guarantee you every other offense can see this too. Like, offensive coordinators are going to be all over this, and you can't just brush off criticism like that. Like, I mean, how many coaches do you know that never change? Like, that say, like, we're not going to change our scheme. Like, we don't care what you think. Like, not very many successful ones. Not very many successful ones talk like that at the podium. So,
and we know one coach who changed and he worked his way back up. That was Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn never let go of cover 3 until he was eventually fired. And he went to Dallas. He started blitzing more. He started playing more man coverage, and now he's the head coach of one of the coolest teams in the league. So I think what's also just really disappointing, and look, I think everyone loves Raheem Morris. He's a very likable guy. You saw him celebrate that Kirk Cousins 4th down conversion. It was a cool moment. But Raheem Morris, he should have a very good understanding of like how much this organization has suffered. He should have a very strong understanding of how irrelevant this team has been. Like, he was a wide receivers coach the last time they were in the playoffs. So the idea to have that arrogance is a little disheartening. I just think, look, he watches film. He's been in the sport for, professional level, 25 years. So the idea of just saying, look, whatever about the whole stats for losers thing, but the idea of just watching this defensive scheme, and you've seen now, like, Carolina has looked hopeless, and they looked comfortable for about 2.5 quarters, running whatever they wanted against them. We saw what Seattle did, and now we saw what Tampa did. And look, Dallas is a bit of a free fall, but Dallas still has star power, and their season is kind of on the brink, and they could come into Atlanta next week and put on a stellar performance and put up 35 points, no problem. So I just think there's got to be more awareness there. Look, we can pick apart the pass rush, we can pick apart the linebackers, but the coaching staff needs to make adjustments, and that's what Raheem Morris did last year. Like, that Rams defense, I always make this joke. That Rams defense, you could have named 3 starters going into the season. And Raheem did some great things with them, and they almost won. They almost beat the Lions, which really would have been a huge upset at the time. So I'm hoping they really dial in on the film, make whatever personal adjustment. And thing is, like, that locker room is filled with veterans. Like, you look at that defense, I don't know what the average age is, but there's not too many young players there. So whether it's a players only meeting or just they got like a heart to heart, it's just adjustments have to be made. Whether it's more man, more blitzing, more heavier boxes to stop the run, because like you saw that first drive, Tampa Bay was running the ball 7-8 yards, no problem. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. Like, you can't look this hopeless for a team that say people are saying they invest a lot in the defense. No, they have. You look at the contracts they've given out. There's some big money across all three levels of that defense. So
yeah, you're absolutely
things
right.
got improved, man.
Yeah, I mean, the defensive interior is obviously the biggest disappointment on the entire roster. Like Grady Jarrett's starting to round back into form, which is great. And David Onyemata, like he had that batted pass, he's been okay. Like, but these guys aren't difference. Like Grady Jarrett is. I'll give Grady Jarrett his credit. David Onyemata is not really a difference maker right now. Nobody else on the interior is either, and the edge group is what it is. You know, it's not good. And now your linebackers are playing like doo-doo. So it's like you've got 3 good corners, 1 good safety now with Justin Simmons out. Like, that's not a good defense. Like, there's just, I don't see any way to make that work with these guys all underperforming. And so maybe, like, Lake is just like, well, this is the best we can do. And, like, obviously he's not going to admit that. You know, I get it. Like, you're not going to be like, well, our personnel is just awful, so, like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, he's not going to say that. Right? Yeah. He's not going to say that. We don't want him to say that. But, you know, I just don't want him coming out there and being like, well, we're not going to make any changes because we're playing winning football. It's like, we're winning in spite of the defense, not because of the defense. And, like, yeah, sure, if Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell can get you miracle turnovers every week, then maybe it'll be okay. But, like, my whole beef with this team and, like, what I've been, you know, when I say I don't think this team is very good, the offense is good, but, like, are you really, like, to get to very good, you can't be this bad on defense. You can't just win every game in the last 2 minutes. Like, you can get to the playoffs, you can be a good team, but to be very good, like, you can't play like this because this is not sustainable winning football. If the offense is good enough, you're going to be able to win shootouts, and that's a ticket to a winning record and a playoff spot. But, like, as soon as you come up, like, look at the Seahawks. You come up against a team with an offense that can go toe-to-toe with you, and you could get your ass kicked.
I forgot the Seahawks. Like, there's going to be 3 teams minimum coming out of the NFC North. You're likely to have to play the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings. God, I can't picture those games right now, just the way the defense is playing. Even with the Vikings, people say, all right, 2-game losing streak, but the Vikings, we know they got star power, and Kevin O'Connell's one of the brightest minds in the sport. So it's just, look, they got a favorable schedule right now, but I mean, the idea of seeing them go against the true heavyweights of the NFC, Kirk better play at this level. That's all I can say.
We're gonna need it. I mean,
Bijan Berry, like, hey, that offense, yeah. They better be going Super Saiyan mode. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you just, like, look at what happens. Like, last week, the offense doesn't play flawless football. They get a couple turnovers and they get blown out. Like, that's what happens if this offense makes mistakes because the defense is that bad. Like, I mean, they like played better in the second half, like they always do. But, like, it feels so fraudulent when the Bucs are marching for 2 touchdowns and they just throw picks, and it's like, well, that's great, but, like, what? Like, that's not sustainable. Like, that is not. You can't just look at that drive and be like, well, we played great defense because we got a pick. You can say, like, please, here, Richie, I wish. Yeah, here, AJ, like, here's your gift card to Chops. You know, thanks for bailing me out again. You know, here, Jesse Bates, here's your gift card to Chops Steakhouse. Thanks for bailing us out again. But, like, I don't know how any defensive coordinator can look at those drives and call those wins. So, like, yeah, you got a turnover, and that's great, and celebrate the individual great play, but, like, you got your ass kicked the whole drive. You were going to give up a touchdown. Like, you need to internalize that and try to make some changes instead of acting like you have a great defense, because you don't. Like, you're 5-3. Like, we're not good enough to be here like, well, we're playing winning football, so, you know, don't criticize me. I don't know. That quote just rubbed. I'm sure I'm not the only person that got rubbed the wrong way from that quote. And I've never met Jimmy Lake, so I'm not passing any judgment on him personally. It's just I don't think that was the right moment for this. Like, this attitude is not going to fly in Atlanta after what we've seen in the last 3 years. So
yeah, I mean, look at all the wonderful quotes Arthur Smith left this fan base.
Same thing.
Yeah, like, it's just the arrogance when you're not productive on the field. That's the thing. Like, you could be arrogant when we're seeing high level top 10 caliber play where you're actually creating stops, generating pressure, making sound tackles, you know, putting teams consistently in 3rd and long, winning on 3rd down. You know, the fundamental stuff that makes a defense good. Right now, they're not doing pretty much any of the fundamentals that makes the defense good. They're pretty much relying on their star power. Do you want to talk about both interceptions? Because I really would like to highlight how good
both
Jesse Bates and AJ.
Beautiful plays. Yeah.
that, hey, to be organized on a flea flicker, that shows, all right, the secondary, they're not totally disoriented. Like, flea flickers can easily catch teams off guard, and the Falcons read that perfectly. And man, I don't know where they're, to me, that probably ranks as my favorite Jesse Bates play. I don't know. Does anyone else, any other plays that come to mind? He's got a plethora of turnovers at this point.
Oh man, I feel like there was one against the Saints
that was a pick
better.
six.
Yeah,
but I feel like Carth kind of threw the ball at him. I think from like an athletic, like individual effort moment, like this was just the way he got up there. He wanted the catch point.
Yeah, this one was absolutely incredible athletic display, and like didn't like the Bucs tried like a bunch of like craziness in this game, and it didn't really work. Like, so I mean, honestly, like that's usually the sign of a defense that's disciplined. It's just like they don't look disciplined the rest of the game. It blows my mind. Like you play it honestly on the flea flicker, nobody bites, and Jesse Bates gets that amazing pick, and it's like that's great. Like that's what typically that good defenses will not fall for that. It's just so I mean all the credit to Jesse Bates. I mean, obviously an incredible play to take that away. I mean, that was very close to being a completion. So, but he was not fooled, not for 1 second.
You gotta think that Tampa Bay was going to go outside the box with their game plan because they're coming off a bit of a short week. They lost 2 of their focal points to the offense. Like they run so much through Evans and Godwin. So I had a feeling, given how aggressive and creative Liam Cohen is, they were going to break some things out the box, and that was one of them. But Baker just got caught. Probably shouldn't have thrown that ball there. And then the second interception, I love Greg Olson's breakdown where it looked like I think it was Cade Otton was like running a dig, and I think Baker thought Terrell was going to go with Otton while McMillan was running a wheel route. And boy, Richie Grant was covering McMillan on that wheel route. I was like, thankfully, AJ Terrell planted his feet, was reading Mayfield's eyes, and then closed down the passing window because, that could have been a touchdown there. But once again, AJ Terrell, he's always been such an intelligent player. And the thing with AJ Terrell is, I think if he just doesn't get caught on the receiving end of explosive plays, I think everyone will be happy. That's the thing. Like, that was kind of the case last year. Like, we agree, AJ Terrell had a good year last year. Maybe not great, but he was good. But the thing was, he had some bad games against DJ Moore, Mike Evans. That will kind of make someone's viewpoint of a player. You won't forget that type of stuff. But meanwhile, week in, week out, for the most part, he's making his tackles. He's playing solid coverage. You're not seeing any miscommunications, no breakdowns. I think that's kind of been the case this year, except a few plays against DK Metcalf, George Pickens. That's about it. Other than that, he's handling his business.
Yeah, I mean, when you pay a guy that kind of money, and like I think by next year he'll already probably be like down close to 10, in the contract rankings, just because I mean already we saw multiple corners get paid like ahead of him. So it's just one of those things that the Falcons didn't like. The Falcons are going to have to make a lot of cuts next year, and I think they didn't want to also have to deal with. And this is part of the comp pick formula too. Like they didn't want to have to re-sign Terrell next year, possibly throwing off a comp pick when they were like, we can't really like risk letting him walk. Like if he has a great season, he's probably going to ask for like 30, and like we can't really afford that, and we don't want to let him walk. He's a core part of what we want to do. So I get why they gave him that contract, and it's like, when you get that kind of money, people have high expectations. But I think also just the average fan, and this is not meant as a slight to any of you guys, like evaluating corner is hard. Evaluating corner, like behind quarterback, I would say cornerback is the hardest position to evaluate because most of the time you're not going to have the coach in you're telling you, oh yeah, this guy was playing this coverage and he made a mistake here. Or like, no, he played the coverage right, but the safety was supposed to come over and he didn't. So it's actually the safety's fault. You have to like try to guess at what the coverage was, try to figure out what's going on, and then try to evaluate the player, which is why like I hate scouting corners. that's always the position I do last. Yeah.
I think corners and safeties are really hard.
Yeah. Safeties, like I feel like I have a better feel for safeties for some reason, but yeah, like it's a tough position to scout, and like part of that is because like a corner can do everything right and still get beat, and when you're evaluating, you have to still give him credit for that play, even if he gets beat, because guess what? Like all corners get beat. There's not a single quarterback in the NFL that's not going to get beat. Look at Sauce Gardner. Everyone was like, oh, he's the best. He's so great. He's getting beat. Like it happens. Like it happens to the best corners. and you have to be able to sort of step back and evaluate, like, what was his responsibility? What was he supposed to do? And I just have a lot of respect for cornerbacks. It's up there with, like, toughest positions in the league to play because it's so brutal. Like, when you everyone's going to see when you get your ass kicked, and they're going to let you know. But
the highlight reel is unforgiving. And, like, even last week, like, we watched back on film, like, he really wasn't at fault for that Metcalf touchdown. Like, you saw Justin Simmons was out of position. You saw Nate Landman running in no man's land in cover 2. So it's just moments like that where you watch the film, it's like, okay, you try to get, like, a better understanding of cornerback play. So, it's great for Terrell, though, like, to have these moments because, look, the running joke was he hasn't had interceptions since 2021. The fact that he's now had 2 in the last 3 games, and both in critical spots. Like, think about it. They were both in the second half, and he read the play perfectly both times. So these aren't gimme picks. Like, he's fully earning them. So it's what you want from a cornerback that you consider to be a premier player on your defense. And, huge kudos to him. And then Jesse Bates, like, just give the guy the key to the city already. He is just always just stepping up, man. Like, I just feel like he's always in control, Jesse Bates. Like, there might be a moment where, all right, Bucky Irving jukes him out, but more times than not, like, it's just Jesse Bates knows where to be in the right position. And if you put the ball somehow in any harm's way, like, we didn't even talk about the punch out, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, how
fantastic.
clean was that?
Super
oh, my
clean.
God.
Love it.
Yeah.
And they need every single one of those plays so bad. And that's why, like, I'm definitely, like, give him all his credit, but it's like, man, like, they're playing on the knife's edge, like, every week. And that, honestly, some of that's just the nature of the NFL, right? Like, I mean, if you're not a great team, you're rarely going to be blowing teams out. Like, you're rarely going to be getting big wins. This team is obviously not a great team. They could maybe get there at some point, but I think this defense is going to hold them back from getting to that point this year. But, a win is a win, and you sweep the Bucs. It's the first time I can remember that happening in recent memory. You take a commanding division lead now with the Bucs will not catch you in the division record. Like, the best they can do is tie you in the division record, and it doesn't matter anyway because you have the head-to-head tiebreaker. You bury them at 4-4, and they have
Chiefs
to go
next week.
Yeah, they got to San Francisco and Kansas City are the next 2. So, like, if the Falcons could just take, if the Falcons can get this win against the Cowboys, which, that game, who the hell knows what to expect from the Cowboys week to week,
I know, it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
Like, fitting the timing, Michael Parsons probably will be back. So, look, as bad as Dallas is, like, I don't think Dallas is a good team at all. They still have the star power and enough players who are just like, all right, you still have to, you got to hold them accountable. Like, it's going to be a game where it's going to be back and forth.
Yep. And,
and they play the Saints.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. I love those Bucs Saints games because it's like no matter who wins, we win. So, but it's like the Falcons could just be walking into a situation where the Bucs could be in a big hole just based on who they play, and the Falcons could have a comfortable lead by the time they get to their bye if they can just take care of business. But of course, this is the Falcons, so nothing about this season's going to be comfortable, Alan. I can already tell you that. So
I'm already looking at that Broncos game. It's like, oh wow, Sean
big
Payton
trap game. Yeah,
it's like,
oh
man, it would be great to take the Sean Payton. Oh wait, this defense going to get Sean Payton. Like, Bo Nix could throw the ball 2 yards past the line of scrimmage every down, but somehow they'll get 12 yards. It's like it's going to be one of those games. But look, things are aligned really nicely, and it feels good. The fact that this team not only controls their own destiny, but they have a foundation offensively where you can depend on them week in, week out, and they're going to take it to defenses in a variety of ways. And they have a play caller who is really on the pulse of how to be successful in this league. So I think that's like the biggest encouraging thing. Yeah. And take what you want from this, but the fact that they go win 1-score games, all right, some of it's ugly, but I guess, it builds character. We always talk about teams that are in the playoffs usually have above 500 records of winning 1-score games. Obviously the Falcons are over 500 right now, so they probably absolutely have a over 500 record in 1-score games. So at least they never make those timely plays. It speaks for something.
That is something that you have to be able to do in this league, is you have to win those 1-score games. They're definitely doing that. We've seen that Kirk just has a knack for that. His last couple seasons, and I remember the season before he got hurt in Minnesota, they just won all their 1-score games. I'm pretty sure they won 8 of them or something.
11-0.
Yeah.
Really? No, they won 11-0 until the Giants playoff loss.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, there's no way they could replicate that. And they were replicating it the next year too. Like they were doing it again. It's like maybe Kirk that's just who he is right now. He's just good in that situation. And again, that's good. Like you want that. That is a big deal. That is an important part of your defense. It just can't be like you're at once. That can't be like you're not going to win playoff games like that. I mean, like maybe our expectations should be low. Like, oh, if they can just make the playoffs, like we'll be happy. And like to some extent, yes, like that would be a great first step. But like we should like if the offense is this good, like we should be better. Like you can't. It's disappointing in that regard. But a lot of football left, Alan. A lot of football left, and a couple listener questions left as well. How about that segue?
Yeah, let's definitely get some more listener questions.
We got Brave Dirty Hawk with two with the $1.99. That one didn't have a question, but then a $4.99 with a question. So thank you, Brave Dirty Hawk, for the 2 donations. How long do we think Jimmy Lake and Caden Ellis are with the Falcons? Well, I don't believe that Caden Ellis is going to survive his cut at this point. He's a big cap savings. So that would probably be 2025. They're going to need the money. Like they're going to have to be kind of cutthroat this offseason, and that includes Grady Jarrett, unfortunately. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It's gonna be a sad day, but they saved $16 million by cutting Grady Jarrett. He's making over $20 million, and I will hate it. I will hate it because he's one of my favorite Falcons of all time. But I don't know. I don't know if they can afford to keep him at this point.
You wouldn't rule out him possibly taking a pay cut, and
if
I'm never
sure,
him. But I could see it just for the love for the city and his relationship with Raheem. They might have a conversation where he could restructure his contract. I wouldn't rule that out, but I do think the Ryan Nielsen guys are getting cleared out though. It's like, oh, you were primarily a Ryan Nielsen guy.
No, Onyemata's on the way out probably. Maybe they could find a way to make Grady's number work, especially if he continues his run of play now. Because if he continues playing like he is now and keeps that going, it's like you can maybe find a way to work the contract and keep him around just for the leadership too. So you don't have to completely start over on the interior. But I think there's a couple guys like Onyemata and Caden Ellis are probably both gone for sure. There's a couple of guys like that where there's just too much cap savings. Jimmy Lake, I don't know. Obviously, he and Raheem are close. But I don't know if they would be willing to make a change after one season here. Tough spot. And, obviously 9 more games for Jimmy Lake to potentially turn this defense around. So we could be singing a very different tune at the end of the season by the time all the dust clears. We got Sour Pickle with the $5 saying, I'm glad of where we are within the division with the lead and all. We need that defense to start doing its part, though. We can't keep putting it on the offense. Yeah, I mean that's literally the Seahawks game. You saw it. They put it all on the offense, and the offense had a bad day, and that's it. Game over. So yeah, you can't overly rely on the offense in this league. But if you have to rely on one side of the ball, it should be the offense. So at least they figured that out finally. Is that actually you can't win games with a bad offense in the NFL. It's really hard. You can win games with a bad defense. Teams do it all the time, but you can't win games with a bad offense. So at least we fixed that problem. But
the Chiefs could be undefeated with a bad offense at the moment. Yeah. But then again, when you have a generational quarterback at tight end, it does help.
It does help when you have the best quarterback. You just kind of cover up a lot. But got Adrian Rust with the $2. What's up, Adrian? Says, Koo had that bad miss, but I do think the D came through despite the inconsistent play. Can we talk about Kadero Hodge always making huge game-impacting plays, and Bates might be the best safety behind Kyle Hamilton. Also, Kyle Pitts is back. Please hold on to the ball. Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, Kadero Hodge, I'll give him his flowers again. He's if they had a 6-man award in the NFL, that's the guy. That's him. Most valuable, bench special teams player. Just whenever you need him, man, he's there.
And he's actually starting to get a couple more snaps as a run blocker. I thought he was actually good against Seattle. I didn't see him too much out there today, but against Seattle, he chipped in. I don't think that was because of injuries. So I know the Falcons primarily use their 3 receivers, 11 personnel, but if Hodge could come in and help the run blocking, that could be useful because, hey, watching Mooney and McLeod make a couple of key mistakes, maybe Hodge could do more in those situations.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, I think Ray's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit lately. Not exactly sure why, but he's been getting less and less targets. Obviously, Kyle Pitts ascending has kind of pushed him down. And he's not a very good blocker, right? So maybe they feel like giving Kadero Hodge those snaps, or maybe even Charlie Warner getting more snaps, is helpful for the run game. And that might be more important at this point, considering how good their other receiving options are. They may value his receiving ability a little bit less, given that they're finally starting to get more of that production from Kyle Pitts at this point.
He did have the cool end around, and I like the fact that
nice.
he got up too. Like he knew he didn't get tackled. So I just feel like Ray McLeod plays so angry, but then he also has the awareness. So like he's definitely a useful player. It's just blocking is definitely not a strong suit. We know that.
Yeah. I have no problem with Ray McLeod. I just I think we got what we were hoping for out of him, which is that he's a good, serviceable wide receiver 3. I think people thought like, oh, he's a bad wide receiver 3. He can't play that role. He can, clearly. And he's been a guy that can catch 5-6 passes and keep the chains moving for this team. And I think that's really what we were hoping for. So good for him.
And Kirk trusts him. You could tell they have great chemistry. So
yeah,
that's big.
For sure. So you like that, and at some point you're going to need the receiver depth. So it's good to have him out there if you need him. We got Sour Pickle with one more. The $2. Thank you. Says, can we please not play Anderson on special teams anymore? Yeah, I think that's a given, Sour. If we see Anderson on special teams, we need to send, we need to have a riot at Flowery Branch or something, because he's probably like apparently he's the linchpin of their defense because nobody else can move at linebacker. So, I don't think they're going to be foolish enough to play him on special teams anymore, but, never say never. Yeah.
They got the new ace, Tyler Algier, making tackles.
That's right. Yeah, Tyler Algier will take over there. He's doing great work. So, Alan, I think we covered it. I tried not to. I held off on the defense. It was hard. I think I got in my harsh criticisms, but we didn't. Oh, it didn't overwhelm the entire show. It was close. Didn't quite get there. So
I feel like when you watch all 22, oh man, you're gonna have a doozy with that on a future episode.
Just gonna enrage,
Watch those coverage looks. Just to end the show, I want to just looking back on the Kirk Cousins sign now. Like, I'll admit, and I think we talked about this after the Jaguars game last year, which, oh boy, what a forgettable podcast that was. But I've never been a huge proponent of Kirk Cousins. I've always been frustrated by his limitations, but I will happily eat my words based on his overall performances this year. And I think this team isn't where they're at without him. So huge kudos to him. I love the fact that he's taken total command of this offense. And I don't know, at this point, man, how do you just rate not just this game, but like his impact on the overall team? Because it seems like everyone's fully behind it, man. And looking back on your reaction March and now, like where are you overall, just your viewpoint on Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was more puzzled by the Penix move than the Cousins move. I think the Cousins move made perfect sense.
Penix right now.
We're not talking about Penix. Yeah. We finally got to see Penix get put in, and
he can throw to his left.
Yeah. So 1 of 1, perfect quarterback right now. But I like the Cousins move. I think he was the best option. That didn't require you to trade picks. And I think they signed him to a reasonable contract too, given everything. After week 1, the faith was shaken, but that was, man, have we seen a bigger aberration game? Than week 1, with this team. This team looks nothing like that. Absolutely nothing like that week 1 offense. They don't look anything like it. I feel like they didn't even they barely used the pistol. They used the pistol the entire game. They barely used it ever since. So such a
week
bizarre
1 was a preseason
opener.
Game. Yeah, unfortunately, it does count, which makes you really enraged because week 1 is still week 1. It's on your record, but it really felt like a preseason game.
Yeah, just a wild turn of events. But I liked the Kirk signing. I thought it made the most sense given their options. I thought that they didn't want to give up draft picks, which was correct. And it was they know they can't, that the Falcons fans weren't going to put up with another rebuild, which is true. We're on edge. They're 5-3, and I feel like people are on edge. I mean, our tolerance level for this team's shenanigans is very low after 7 years of no playoffs, or 6 years, or whatever it is. So, they had to get someone in here that was going to immediately vault this team into playoff contention. I think that's clearly the case. This offense looks night and day from last year with, honestly, you got Mooney in here, you got Ray McLeod in here, and obviously Kirk Cousins comes in, but the rest of the personnel ain't that different. The offensive line, more or less the same. The running backs are the same. The tight ends the same. The main number one receiver is the same. Carol Hodge still here. Apparently Carol Hodge is probably the second best receiver on that team last year. They just barely threw it to him. So
same offensive line coach.
Yep. So I mean, it's like the quarterback matters, Alan. Imagine that.
Yeah, and then you have offensive play caller comes from a strong background who is willing to learn from his mistakes and just kind of utilize what's the most successful ways to operate in this league, using more motion, getting his playmakers out on the perimeter, putting Drake London more in the slot. Like, not to harp on Arthur Smith, but I think one of the things that really went bad last year, the fact that Drake London really didn't get much slot snaps last year because Jonnu Smith just had to be on the field. As much as a useful player John Smith is, like, they catered so much to him, man. Just look at Drake London, man. But nevertheless, this team's 5-3, and this offense is really becoming a must-watch, and it's fantastic to see because we look at the draft capital. This team went all in on the draft on their offense, and this is the level they have to be at. Of course, you wish they had a little bit more margin for error, but week in and week out, their top 10 picks are making game-changing plays and they put on fantastic performances. And it's refreshing to see Kyle Pitts today take the initiative and make two explosive plays, looking like the Kyle Pitts in 2021.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Kyle Pitts' emergence is going to be key for this team. They obviously want him to be here long term. He's still only 24 years old. It's crazy.
And you got to be thrilled about it, man, because I feel like you've been like the biggest advocate for Kyle Pitts. You and Trayshawn saw, hey, man, at least that's another thing you can be thrilled about today. Like, to see Kyle Pitts, because you've really just been forced to get more out of him.
I just refuse to believe he's bad. I can't believe it. I honestly can't believe that he could be a bad football player. Like, there's just no way. So, yeah, I'm glad to see that he's getting out there, and we'll see where he is after this week. We still got a lot of games to play, but I mean, he's approaching. He was in the top 3 tight end yardage as of last week, and 91 yards. I have to think he's at the very least still in that category. Obviously, it's a down year for tight ends, but if he could get to 1,000 yards, that'd be big for him. Obviously, at this point, so
it's like Kittle, McBride, Bowers, and then if he could be, like that second tier, I think that's the goal.
Yeah. I think right now that's what we're hoping for, with hopefully an eventual ascension into that top tier. But the fact that his blocking is like solid, that's big for him too. That's a good thing. Like, if they really want to use him as a tight end, which they've been committed to doing, the fact that he can block, even if it's just average, is good. It's a big deal. So
because it helps them use play action more. Because how many times this season have we seen them go under center, first down, play action, take a shot downfield? Like, even though it didn't come to fruition, it was still really refreshing to see, and it was almost a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that Pitts held up so well blocking wise, like when you watch all 22, definitely keep a close eye on that play. Like, I really like the design and everything about it. Just the ball placement wasn't quite where it needed to be, but if Pitts could block like that, it opens up things more for play action, and we know how important play action is. So just another encouraging thing about this wonderful offense.
Yeah. No, you love to see the offense. You hate watching the defense right now. You're literally just crossing.
Why are we talking about the defense, man? We're talking about the offense.
I can't stop.
Oh,
no, I do love this offense. Like, it is such a nice, refreshing thing to see this.
They
offense
really got to
come
play Spencer Rattler and Bo Nix, please.
Yeah. Yep. So we got to do something. If they look that bad against Spencer Rattler or Bo Nix, man, I'm gonna we're gonna have some issues. We're gonna have some words. But
I mean, the trade deadline's what, next week?
Yeah, I think they got to do something. I feel like when you're 5-3, especially, you probably got to try to do something to get this to get somebody in here that can rush the passer. I mean, they're not going to go crazy, right? I mean, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, they're not walking through that door. But
absolutely
like Uche, Azeez Ojulari, perhaps, like one of these guys, you got to get some. Yeah, I would love Zadarius Smith, but the thing with like Uche and like Ojulari is like maybe you could re-sign them. I don't think Zadarius Smith is probably getting re-signed here, given his situation, but.
Enough,
Like, if you could get some kind of piece like that would be more than a rental, that would be nice. But like they seem to be happy to trade for these guys in the last year of their deal too, because they're fine, letting folks walk maybe for some comp picks, so that they have the flexibility to do that if they want. But obviously it's easier to sign guys if they're in the building than if they're not. So,
True.
yeah.
You go New England. All right. We got you on the Mohamed Sanu deal. You pretty much got us on the Matthew Judon deal. It's 1-1. Let's work out something for Josh Uche. Take it from there.
Yeah. We'll have a do-over there. Well, to be fair, the Patriots wouldn't have traded Josh Uche before the season, but maybe just Judon needs one of his Patriots buddies to play off of, and maybe you get Uche in here, and then they can start working together. But
does that help with overall movement? Because you literally said, and I totally agree with you, that it looks like he's running through mud right now.
Yeah, and then it's like he goes and covers Rachaad White downfield. Like, he hauled ass on that play. Like, it's like, where was this? Like, where was this? What was this before? Like, I just don't know what's going on there, man. But it's concerning, to say the least, when he was the guy you were depending on to save your pass rush, and he's been playing the way he's been playing.
Something about star pass rushers on the past 30 of their career doesn't go right. Like, I'm thinking that even OCU Manura had more flashes at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe older pass rushers, not kind of the route the Falcons should take. Although, hell, the White Freeney had a fantastic 1-year run. But look, we're not going to compare it to White Freeney to these players. The White Freeney's So.
But no, we'll hope for more success. Falcons have to play the Cowboys next week. That is one of the most bipolar teams in the NFL, having their own stretch of issues. I do wonder, if what happens to the Cowboys today, or are they on bye? I can't remember.
We can watch them tonight.
Oh, they're
49ers tonight.
Right. I should have known. I should have known they would be on prime time. You're right, but I feel like if the Cowboys get whooped tonight, man, that team might make some changes. So I don't know what to expect from this Cowboys team.
The Niners are in a conundrum too. It's two teams that are very much I think the Cowboys are on the brink. I'm not sure if the Niners are on the brink, but both teams that are facing huge adversity right now. So something's got to give. And Dallas is activating Dalvin Cook tonight, so I think that kind of shows you where they are as a.
Yeah, that kind of sums it up. Actually, it's a good summary. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be. There's gonna be nothing normal about that game. I guarantee
no, absolutely not. Absolutely
nothing normal. I
just want AJ Terrell to have a big game, so we could say, all right, they passed up on CeeDee Lamb for AJ Terrell, but it was kind of worth it.
Yeah.
You remember the CeeDee Lamb AJ Terrell talk?
Yep, I do. We're gonna have it again, like you said. We're gonna have it again. So we'll see who gets the better end of that one.
Terrell gets beat for 120-yard play. It's over.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Falcoholic Blower, Falcons vs. Bucs. Week 8 post-game show, fun show. Despite my, anger at the defense, we can definitely sit back and enjoy this offense, and hopefully this offense will just carry them. That's kind of what we're gonna need at this point. But I do love watching good offense, and at least we can see that from the Falcons now. Just clean up a couple mistakes, and I mean, this could be a 30+ point a week offense. They just clean up a couple things here and there. So, yeah. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. He is Alan Strk at Alan Strk. Alan, anything else you want to plug before we sign off tonight?
No, it's going to be a very fun week writing and podcasting. So fun times ahead. First place Falcons. What a team. What a world.
First place Falcons, 5-3, but they did not go 4-4 again. I feel like they were 4-4 like the past several years. So
the last 2 ones for sure. Because I remember they beat the Niners, a very decimated Niners team, and then they went to Cincinnati, and Cordell Armstrong had to cover Jamar Chase, and then the game was over.
Yeah. And Falcons get past that dreaded 4-4 mark, get to 5-3, 4-0 in the division. This team doesn't have to be very good to make the playoffs, and I'm hoping we will get there in terms of being very good or at some point. Right now, I don't think they're there, but the offense, on the other hand, the offense can be very good. And that might be all it takes to run away with this division, given what we're seeing from the rest of the NFC South. So we'll hang our hat on that. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. Like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. We'll be back on Tuesday with another Tuesday Takes with Trayshawn coming your way, breaking down another big win. Love to see that. Probably some more bad words exchanged about the defense, but good words exchanged about the offense. So, a little bit of back and forth going on. But we will be back then, of course, Wednesday. Hopefully with a big guest joining us. We've been working on getting this one for a while. We've stayed with it, so we'll see. And then we'll be back with more game preview and coverage of this Cowboys game as the week continues. So thanks, guys, so much for hanging out with us here on this Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday night football. Thanks again to BetOnline for sponsoring today's episode. We will see you next time on the Falcon Live. Have a great night, folks. Thanks.